Hey, Jason here. Just listened to your day zero for RPG a day. I thought that was a great little talk, great introduction to the topic, what it is. I'm excited to see what people do this year. And yeah, so great job. Keep up the great work. Thank you for the effort you put into this. I really appreciate it. I think it's a great cause. And I will see you around the gaming sphere.
Thanks for the call, Jason. And thanks also for releasing your episode during my daytime. So, your podcast on RPG a Day for the first week of posts was my first listen to someone talking about the prompts for RPG a Day. So, that's pretty cool. Anyway, let's get into it. You're listening to the Casting Shadows podcast. This is RPG a Day 2022. RPG a Day 2022, like all other years of RPG a Day, is about being positive and talking about role-playing games. And usually I post every day, either to YouTube or to my blog or to both, or like last year, to the podcast. But this year, because of my schedule, I may be posting all over the place and from lots of different locations. So please bear with me. But because today is day one, I wanted to post a separate post, not a combined or aggregate post, as I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doing, on all three places: the podcast, YouTube, and to the blog. So, without any further ado, please join me on the road.
Hello. As you can see, you've found me in the car. And we're driving from one rainstorm into what is probably another rainstorm, unless, this video ends before we reach the other side. Why am I talking to you from the car? Well, scheduling is challenging these days. There's a lot going on, and I'm constantly in motion. This is day one for RPG a Day 2022. And this is my first post. I will not be posting videos to YouTube every day. It's not possible for me during this particular period, but I will be posting aggregate videos comprised of a week's worth of material. And the prompts for RPG a Day for this year, as you may have noticed if you looked at the infographic, and you can get the infographic to look at it on the founder of RPG a Day's blog at autocratic.com. And autocratic is AUTOCRATIK, right? Autocratic.com. You can find the infographic there. You can find translations into other languages there. You can also find, excuse me, you can also find these things on my blog, but you already know where that is. So, day one through day 6 is a conversational flow following the questions who, what, when, where, why, and how. And then day 7, Sunday, is more of an activity day. So I'll compile everything together into that flow. But for day one of RPG a Day, we're going to have this video, which is the who question. It's who would you like to introduce to RPGs? Who would you like to introduce to RPGs? Could be a specific person, it could be a group of people or something like that, but using the power of imagination that arises from role-playing games, I'm thinking that, if it were possible to have a do-over, if it would be possible to undo a regret, to reach out when my natural instinct at the time was to remain closed, then that is exactly what I would do. I would go back to the last year of high school, where I didn't really make a new friend, but I recognized that this guy, this kind of outsider in high school, could have fit pretty easily into my small circle of friends had I met him earlier, right? Or had I made an effort to connect with him when I did meet him. And through that last year of high school, I saw him go down into bad habits, which would ultimately, I'd like to say ruin his life, but he didn't have a chance for that, because he ended his life around the time of his 19th birthday by driving his car into an overpass. And those of us who knew him have no doubt that this was intentional. So it makes me wonder, as I learned more about him, as I learned that we liked the same music, and he wasn't a reader, but he was interested in hearing about the books that I was reading. He was interested in the kind of stuff that I was interested in, science fiction and the different types of fantasy. And he wasn't one who was ever going to sit down and read Lord of the Rings, but he might have read Conan if someone had suggested it to him. And I think he would have loved role-playing games, but I never invited him. It never even occurred to me to invite him into that circle, and that's why it's a regret. So if I could introduce anybody I wanted to role-playing games, it would be him, and it would be then. And I don't know if it would, do something dramatic like save his life. That would be nice. But I wonder if it could have given him some other reason to try to connect to people, or if it could have given him some other way to express himself. And so even if it ultimately didn't serve some grand purpose of averting an unnecessary loss of life, it may have made those last few months of life better in some way, because I find that shared experience, the connection that people have around the table, the ability to put your inner world into action. You can, for some of us, you can be someone you're not, or for many of us, you can do something that you can't. And the feedback is instant, the laughter, the enjoyment, and the ability to use the system. He was a great game player. He loved figuring out how games worked. I'm talking about arcade games, the old stand-up arcade games. He was a really good player. He liked systems. I wonder how he would have taken the game that we were playing at the time, AD&D First Edition. I think there would have been a lot there for him to sink his mental teeth into. But we'll never know, because I did nothing. So for RPG a Day, our idea is to be positive and remember the positive effects of roleplay and share them. And so, should the opportunity present itself again, I hope that my instinct now, many decades later, has moved toward giving people a try and opening the door to gaming. I've still, of course, my memory is full of situations and circumstances where I didn't, or where I was surprised that my friends invited people to the table, where again it never occurred to me. But this idea of personal growth through hobbies, it's an ongoing one, isn't it? It's not hopeless. I've invited far more people into the hobby than I haven't, I hope. But something to think about. So who would I invite? No names to protect the deceased. But yeah, I would go back to high school and offer an invitation that I didn't. How about you? Who would you invite to the hobby?
You've been listening to the Casting Shadows podcast. If you'd like to hear more thoughts about role-playing games or read more thoughts about role-playing games, you can find those thoughts by me on castingshadowsblog.com, a WordPress blog, or on YouTube at youtube.com/runeslinger. I'm also on Facebook. You can find me there at facebook.com/runeslinger. Regardless, thanks for listening to this episode. I hope you'll listen to more episodes, and more than that, I hope you'll interact with me about role-playing games here or in the other places that we've just mentioned.